Hey, Composing Gloves here, and today I'm going to show you how to make this acid ARP type sound deal. Anyways, here's the sound. So you get the idea. Away we go. We've got this, acid ARP type thing going. Someone asked me about how to make these, and so I went ahead and made one. And the idea behind them is pretty simple. It's going to be some sort of an arpeggiator that is going to use a filter cutoff to do the arpeggiation, or not to do the arpeggiation, but create the rhythm. And there's usually like some lifted resonance in and throughout, like it's got some sort of a pattern. So I have some resonance turning on and off here. And then what gets really interesting is with it, how you begin to incorporate delay effects, reverb, unison, that sort of a deal. And there's a lot of different varieties of these sorts of sounds. So here's the patch by itself. One other note, this is just a little demo thing. It's not mixed. It's totally hitting the roof super hard. It's way too loud. There's a whole bunch of things that are just wrong with it. But I'm in the creative stage. I'm letting all those things go because I'm focusing on other things. The resonance was actually created by a ridiculous peak in an EQ. So that's not included inside the patch itself. That's done here. So when you hear it rise up at this section, that's what's going on. And we're going to talk a little bit about the ideas behind this. I also have a compressor, but if I get rid of this, you'll notice that this is what's creating a huge peak, because if I have it on and look at our meters over here anyways, because of the floating point maths are the reason why it's not horribly distorted. It's pretty cool. But so that's what's going on there. And then but if we take away that big peak, but I really like the resonance, so I put the resonance on. But I'm going to work with these things off just to show you what I originally had. So the fundamental idea, I've already sort of said it, but is you generate some sort of a tone. So I chose to generate sort of this overdriven sound. And you generate the rhythm via a filter, and you use the cutoff. And so that's what's going on there. And if I were to play like a chord or something, Sytrus sort of has a unique way, well, all of the image line products, they have an interesting way of approaching ARPs. Because they're like polyphonic ARPs. It's confusing. But we're not going to delve into like the nuances. I'll show you what I did in a simple manner. And because like there's a whole bunch of like extra stuff you could consider if you want. Because of the nature of the filter you're using, you can get quite a different change just by simply changing the pole of the filter. So if we were to go back down here, whoop, not that far. Versus. So those are like two worlds apart. Here's another one. These are all sort of similar, just growing less intense, but the ones where you go to the alternate types, there's like a little more mid in that. It goes away with that one. It's taken out. A little more apparent in the times and the pole that's been increased to 3. So I use the variable state, but if we go over to like another low pass, like you get a super different feel. Now this doesn't have a huge acid feel right now. It's sort of the sound I have here isn't really a completely acid sound. It's got someone keeps firing off fireworks. It's got a more of a modern feel to it because the resonance isn't hitting it so hard. Typically there's a resonance that follows this that creates this really whiny sound. But I do a resonance lift. So resonance goes up for a little ways and then it comes back down, and this actually loops. So what makes it go wah, 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 it gets that nasally quality that comes in with resonance tones. And so that's what's going on there. I'm going to go ahead and you know what? I think I might make one of these just with you because explaining all the envelopes is kind of confusing. But what happens is I have an ARP that is automating a pitch envelope, and it's just going up and down through an octave. And so it's going up and down through this octave, generating a tone. And I made some adjustments to the timbre of the tone via FM because I could. And then we went over here to the filter, routed it to the filter, sent it out the filter, and used the cutoff to create a pattern. I settled on this as my sound. I did a little bit of EQ up front. Unison is on to add a little bit of room. And when we go over to the effects, I have a verb on ever so slightly. It becomes pretty obvious though. If I take away the verb, it sounds way more clean. And if we were to like move X and Y control the resonance and the they control the resonance and they control the cutoff. So anyways, I thought that was pretty cool. And you can get all sorts of things in between. You could get fancier with your effects. You could throw a delay on it, which can sound really nifty. So you see there, now we're getting somewhere, right? But I prefer not to do it. It didn't fit really the style of what I was going for. So that is what's going on with all of these things. What I thought would be cool is let's go ahead and make one with you. And I left that delay on, didn't I? I did. I meant to turn the volume. And so after I did that, just a real quick post thing, I sent it through a compressor. And the compressor is just bringing up the mids and highs a bit to bring a little bit of sharpness in. This is definitely not the final mix of what it would be. There's a whole bunch of things I would need to change. But I also added in this nifty, it's basically a resonance filter, a vowel filter. And it moves up and down, just creates a huge spike in resonance, which allows me to do really cool things as I move that up and down. So using it musically becomes a very useful thing. So let's go ahead. I went ahead and looked at some of the ARPs FL Studio image line provides with Sytrus by default. They're sort of legendary settings of Sytrus now. And so you see they have all manner of delay, and you hear there's a much more, they're relying on a delay for the subdivision, I believe. Yeah, on delay 1. And that's something after I looked through, I was like, oh, that's probably a better idea. Gives you a better feel for it, sort of. But I went ahead and did mine. If you look at the rhythm I settled on, my rhythm on the cutoff is like all written in per thing. So let's go ahead and make a thing. So here we go. I have no idea if this is going to turn out good or not. I mean, ideally, it's going to turn out great. But, you know, sometimes it goes horribly wrong. So here's our sound. It's a glorious sine wave. And let's go ahead and just get something a little more interesting. I'm also going to just take it down an octave. Okay, and what I believe I messed with the tension a bit. Now, a quick note, when I'm doing things like this, I'm forming a bass sound. So the bass sound is really important. I usually come back to it 3 or 4 times. Probably actually way more than that, probably like 10 or 20 times. And if I turn this way, just pay attention to how the low end responds to the high end. If it comes out more this way than it does this way. It's sort of interesting. It's like, that's like a high pass filter, and this is like a low boost. It's really curious how a waveform behaves. I mess a lot more around with principles like this when I'm working in renoise, because I like to draw my waveforms in. So knowing stuff about how a waveform will behave is pretty useful. So, okay, so let's just run with that, right? We're not going to get super uber duper particular on this example. So the next thing we want to do is you probably want to create our rhythm and get a feel for the filter. And then we'll go ahead and dive into some other things. So I'm going to go to filter 1. I'm going to change my routing right now. So now it's coming out filter 1. It's going through the low end of the state variable filter. That's fine. I don't want to mess with the band or the high. Wow, I just had a little stutter attack there. Okay, so here I'm going to ignore the resonance for now, and we're going to go to the cutoff. I'm actually going to try doing something more similar to what they did. So our envelope is sort of set up, but not really. I'm going to delete the first point. And so this is going to control our cutoff. I'm going to tempo sync it, and I'm also going to make this a global envelope. So things will sync to this envelope. Get rid of the last point. And what you're going to do is you're going to make this a loop start point. So now our loop starts here, and this is our cutoff value. And so you can hear it doing its thing, and we'll do something like that. Our last point will always reflect whatever our first point is. And I want a envelope that's going to do something like this. Now, it won't loop, though, if you listen to it. Yep, this is the joy. So I'm going to... We didn't do that. There we go. We'll walk around. Okay, and what we want to do is, oh, it is looping. If it doesn't loop, change it to loop, sustain loop. So the S means, it stands for the sustain, which also happens to be the loop. So, okay, cool. So we have our thing, and now we want it to be more, like, however acidy you want it to be. A lot of it correlates to the resonance, so we could bring the resonance up. So you can hear it doing its thing. What we can do now is we can take the resonance, and what I did, because I thought it sounded more natural, was let's tempo sync this one as well. Let's delete. Am I unable to? Oh, it's the first point. You can't delete the first point. Okay, so we'll delete it. We'll start at a resonance value. Last time I started kind of high, but we'll start right there, and we'll go down, and we'll find a pattern that we enjoy. Okay, and then what the preset we looked at did was they put a delay on theirs. So let's put a delay on ours real quick, and we'll tempo sync our delay, which does by default. And I'm thinking, oh, our effect out isn't on yet. We'll turn that on. So it has chorus on by default. And cool. So that's one way you could do it. We turn on ping pong. So I'm not, you know what? I'm not going to do this right now. I'm going to go back to the filter cutoff, and I'm going to make a cool pattern in the middle. So, okay, that's pretty cool. We'll go with that for now. You see, we got that bubbly feeling type thing. I'm like, okay, sweet. Let's try messing with the... Let's turn that off. Let's try messing with the verb. We need our chorus on an order of 1 in order to have sound come out, because I took out our direct out. Mix it. Before we mess with the chorus, let's go ahead and turn on our oscillator, or not our oscillator, sorry. What am I saying? Turn on our unison. That's good. Now what we want to do is we want to give it that art behavior, because we play notes. Maybe that's what you want, but that is not what I was thinking of. I wanted to play a note and then play like a riff that I made. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the filter, we're going to go to the cutoff, and we're going to add in these arpeggiator breakpoints. So it just selects, you have these previous, same, and next. And if you want to know exactly what these do, like what they really mean, you can go into I have a whole series on Sytrus. This is a thing in FL that's just common. So you can go check those out. Look up for the envelope videos. And Harmer from the Ground Up, I think, explains this as well. I might even refer you to Harmer from the Ground Up from this one. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go previous, same, next, previous. I'm just going to make a pattern, right? So when we give it some notes, we got our ARP going. That's what's kind of weird about this, is like, this is in a pitch envelope, but it's doing pitch related things. So Pretty cool. And we'll do next for the last one. And so I'm hitting pretty soft because my keyboard, let me go into turn, whoops, not that on. This link note to none. I don't want velocity sensitivity. Okay, so we've been working with a soft sound too. That can affect it. Let's go try the reverb on now. And the delay, where is it? DE. Bring it down to like 0.6. So this could be something or something not. You might want to go for a reverb plug, just because the sounds you get out of this are fine and stuff, but reverb plugs are just sometimes easier to work with. And that is more or less our sound. Now what we want to do is we're going to link our cutoff because we've been dealing with one filter. We can try messing with different filters now. Check it out. Versus, that's like way more open. This is a lot more like sort of cut and choppy. We go one more. That's that open feel. I like this one, obviously. That's the one I picked before. So you see, that's pretty cool. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our cutoff. And on our cutoff, we're going to go to our Mod X tab. And we're going to link our cutoff. So it's minimum and maximum value, which we set by setting this knob. So this is our minimum. This is our maximum. As we move X out here now, it will change the value here. We can see the index of where our current position is by this line. So as we move it, and we're going to do the same thing for the Y. So we see we had a knob that was named Y out there. So we can do mod Y as well. Except for mod Y, we're going to go to our filter and link it up to the resonance of this sound. So this one, I'm going to give a smaller range. This makes it more useful when I want to go to the extremes of the cutoff, but I don't want my resonance to be overbearing. And sometimes you may have to like adjust ranges and change things while you're setting these. There's a cool spot right there that I like. Right there too. So, okay, cool. We got the basis of this going down. Now, you saw that I had a couple other things going. Those were mostly the results of experiments. But we could come in here. We could begin to change the timbre of our sound a little bit more. Maybe we want to... I just realized my other one was on 0. I forgot if that did anything. Okay, let's change. We get more of a square sound that way. Okay. And I also messed with EQ. A lot of this stuff's like now mixing moves. Not really mixing moves, but just finding a sound that sort of fulfills me. So what we're gonna do next is we're gonna go to the mixer. And what I did was I tried a couple distortions, decided they were all stupid ideas, and went in and did one of these. And I was like, that's dope. Gonna use that. And then I also went in, and you saw I had a Maximus on there, so I guess I'll show you this too. So I had a Maximus. When I grab Maximus, a lot of times I'm trying to make sound clear. I'm not actually trying to make sound compressed or louder. I usually will grab a fruity limiter. When I grab a multi-band compressor, it's usually for some timbral reason. So like if I grab TDR Nova, it's usually because a vocal or maybe a particular synth line rings the way I want it to, but it rings way too loud. And so I'll put a dynamic EQ in place so that when that part happens, it gets reduced in volume. And sometimes I'll automate things if I can't get the exact thing that I want. So here, I don't really want to touch the mids because they're fine. I'll deal with the mids more in the mixing phase. There's actually a lot of mids, and I have to make a decision on whether I want my kick to carry, the lows. Whether I want my kick to carry the low end or this sound. I'd probably stick with this sound because it would be the main feature, what get people jiving. And then when the kick comes in, maybe I'll do an automation and switch the relationship so the kick carries the lows to be more exciting. But here we see we have this sort of behavior. And so what I want to do is I sort of want to embellish it a little bit, making it a little more abrasive. So I'm going to leave all the lower dynamic stuff alone. But when the compression envelope that's generated reaches this spot, it's going to receive a little more than it did before. Not a lot, but it's kind of surprising sometimes how little moves like this on the low and high end, on the mid and high end can have such an effect. And we'll turn that off because that's just a stagnant filter. And we'll look at it. Oh, we got that nice resonancy thing. And so without it, it brings out the high. It's almost like a high shelf, but what it does it a different way, and so it establishes a slightly different effect. And I know I'm going to hear this is related to how hard it's hitting the compressor, and you're going to have to turn it down when you mix, all these things. I know I'm going to have to do all this stuff when I mix it, but for now, it's fine. When I get to the mixing stage, I'll deal with the mix. I can be a lot more specific. This is largely a mixing move, so I'm not against it, because one of the ways I like to mix tracks and turn things all the way down and then bring them up one by one, because I usually get like really nice results when I do it that way. So that is basically it. You could try messing with some overdrive and some other distortions. So if we were to play like some more notes here, and let's toss it in like a track, right? So let's see how it sounds. So we'll copy it, we'll paste it, we'll cut this first guy out. So now all these patterns are our new synth. And let's automate our EQ. I'm going to leave it on. That's something you could automate this on and off to change the power it has. But I'm going to move this up and down, right? So I'm going to hit that. And I'm going to start it out really low, so it's basically out. And then I'm going to have it like slowly creep up. Why not? And I wrote the other one to be lower. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this one down a pitch of 12 to make it the correct octave. Maybe even octave lower if I want. Now. Now we have some cool. This is getting kind of a cool thing. Anyways, yeah, there's a whole load of mixing, the hi-hats and stuff. These things fight. You deal with the high end, but you get the idea. That's the general sound design that's going on here. The big thing that I think was the most confusing about Sytrus is the way it approaches ARPs, and knowing that you can do that to any envelope, sort of cool. So yeah, nothing too crazy. Just some basic stuff. If you have any questions, let me know. Subscribe and have a blessed day.